Welcome back to everyone. Thank you so much for sticking around. We have got some fantastic content now to look at. We've heard about already authentication from Gavin. We've just been talking about the future and the uses of connected packaging. Now I am joined by Alice Rackley, who is CEO of Polytag, and Jörg Sabo, who is from Griner Packaging. And I'm really, really excited to talk to you about sustainability. I think what's really interesting, I don't know if you were able to catch the last session, is that actually when we did a poll with our audience members, we talked a little bit about the impact of sustainability, and we seem to be a little bit differentiated between people who do want to do the right thing and people who say they're going to do the right thing, and maybe a little bit of a difference there. So that seemed really, really interesting in terms of where we come from. But let's get started. Let's get involved. Alice, you're the CEO of Polytag Limited. You specialise in sustainability and digital transformation for FMCG businesses. Yes, you wrote me that. Thank you. And Jörg, you are Global Marketing and Innovation Director from Griner Packaging. A big welcome to you both. Thank you so much for being here at the Connected Packaging Summit. I'm going to ask you very quickly to tell me an interesting fact, either about yourself or something that somebody might not know about you. Alice, we're going to start with you. Tell me something interesting about you.
I've just had to run out into the garden and rescue my daughter's chickens who were going on the road.
Great. Okay. So you're a lifesaver, Alice. That's amazing.
I was a little bit late.
Sorry, Alice, go on.
So I was a little bit late joining the green room beforehand, so apologies for that. But yeah, the chickens are now rescued and back in their coop.
Well, it's all about the good of everything, so I'm glad about that. Jörg, have you saved any lives recently?
Well, I have unfortunately not such a nice story to tell like Alice. So I'm sitting in Vienna at the moment in our Pack World. We have a workshop about innovation, so it fits really to the topic we are talking about today. And there are no chicken running around here.
Sad, very sad. No chickens, but lots of good conversation, I'm sure. So we're gonna talk about connected packaging, and obviously this is really a session which is around sustainability. Jörg, I'm gonna stick with you first of all. What do we mean about sustainability with regards to packaging?
Well, actually, this is not always an easy answer, and it is also very much depending very often on how the brand owner defines sustainability and then what kind of strategy he has. But in what topics we look when we look on a sustainability area, we have on the one hand side, we try to reduce the material. On the other hand side, we try to make the packaging recyclable. We also try to use as much recycled material for the packaging. And of course, there's always a goal as well to improve the CO2 footprint. And depending now on which targets our customers have, they always have to focus on this four dimension, let's say like that.
And what do you think about technological advancements? How are those enhancing the ability for packaging to be sustainable?
Well, let's talk about improving the recyclability of a packaging. Yes, so this is something which is especially for us in some product categories quite a challenge. One of our most lovely products we have is the so-called K3. Yes, this is a product where we combine a cardboard with a plastic. Yes, and the advantage by doing that is that we can reduce the amount of plastic which is used. And theoretically, the consumer can very easily remove the cardboard from the plastic, but in reality, this is very often not the case. So when everything started with the recyclability calculations, we have learned when our products come to the sorting facilities that very often the cardboard is still on the plastic cup. And this means when it's on the sorting bell, that it's either detected as cardboard or as plastic. And what is the consequence? That we are losing 50% of the material, and then this would be, according to the PPWR, really a problem for us. So here was the challenge from us to make the product, we call it self-separable. Yeah, so this means the consumer can still separate it, but if he's not doing that, in the disposal process, the cardboard gets separated from the plastic cup. And this is, for example, a technological enhancement, which makes the product still keep in the market in the future.
So really nice use of technology, but the consumer can still separate it, but the technology will allow it to be self-separating. Really, really interesting. Talking about technology and talking about advancements, Alice, I'm coming to you now. There's been quite a few changes over at Polytag. You're leaders in RecTech, so tell us about the UV tag and tell us all about the reader.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. End of last year, we actually had a patent granted in the UK that is focused on using UV tags that are detected in recycling centres to collect information on behalf of brands about their plastic packaging life cycles. And so we are just actually next week about to launch something called the EcoTrace programme. I have got a slide if it's possible to put this up.
It's already up, Alice. It's already up.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Jenny. So if anybody's interested in finding out more, please check out polytag.io/EcoTrace. EcoTrace is something that we've put together so that the industry can support themselves in enabling a circular economy, because we need to install hardware in recycling centres that can detect these UV tags on single-use plastic and then feed that data back to the brand's dashboards. And the data is really an opportunity for those brands who want to stop guessing and start actually knowing whether their plastic is getting recycled, to have access to that information. That kind of information is super useful for any brand that wants to be able to benchmark progress over time. You know, are the recycling rates of their single-use plastic going up? Might want to use it to inform their internal ESG strategy, and also could find it useful in supporting legislative requirements around recyclability. Really pleased to say that Marks and Spencer's are the founding partner of this EcoTrace programme, and Polytag and Marks and Spencer's are interested to hear from any brand that would like to get involved and contribute to enabling the circular economy in the UK.
Lovely. We were talking about challenges, so let's talk more about challenges. What challenges do you find that companies, brands are facing when they want to try and move to sustainable packaging? What are you seeing?
Well, it's one of those wicked challenges where there's many moving parts that make it particularly difficult to stay on point and keep moving forward. I would say there's probably 3 or 4 major topics that do create the challenge for these businesses that are keen. The first one is trying to keep up with legislation. It changes all the time. Most recently, we had a delay to the deposit return scheme in the UK, but looking further afield, we've got PPWR in Europe. We've got extended producer responsibility. And there's lots and lots of strands to that legislation that, you know, either change or adjust, and you know, staying on top of all of those moving parts can be quite a challenge. I think consumer education, taking a totally different view now, is tricky. Polytag has a QR code format that's GS1 compliant that allows them to share information directly from their pack with consumers. And we're seeing a lot of our clients using that QR code to link to recyclability instructions at pack format level. And so I think that's one tool that could be used to try and overcome some of the challenges around keeping consumers informed and up to date. We've talked about data. There is very little data. I think that's a big challenge for a lot of businesses. But with Polytag, you know, we've got these lovely analytics dashboards with super rich information at barcode level that they can get access to support with that challenge. And then, of course, there's the operational constraints that I think every business feels, and there's no easy fix for that. You know, trying to change the way a supply chain works or change a production process to be more sustainable, it does require getting on the spanners and physically making changes that, you know, can be a challenge to businesses that want to move towards a more sustainable way of working. But yeah, there you go. 4.
Quite a few there, quite a few. Quick question, actually, before I move to Jörg. Mark Watson from the audience is asking, is Polytag limited to plastic? or is it paper and card too?
Good question. We've got two tag formats. I've mentioned both of them. The first tag format is this QR code that's GS1 compliant, and we can enrich with more than just the barcode number, but essentially it links to a landing page per barcode. Other things you might want to enrich the code with are batch lot number, or indeed a serialized code, and we can do all of that for our clients. And of course, those QR codes can be put on literally anything. If you need a landing page per barcode or per product, then we can support you with that. So, you know, we've seen our tags embroidered into care labels on clothing, and applied to windscreen glass, for example. But the UV tags that I was speaking about earlier, they are limited to just plastic, because we get one of our readers on the plastics conveyor line in a recycling centre. And so we are analysing the plastics material that's going underneath, transitioning on the conveyor belt. So yeah, one tag for anything.
So plastic, paper and card, there are options. Good. Yeah. Jörg, over to you. What do you think about consumer preferences and attitudes towards sustainability? Do you think that this is a big influencer in the development, the adoption of sustainable packaging solutions?
Yes, of course. I mean, for sure, the consumer plays a very important role. But what I think what is influencing even more at the moment are the legislation developments. Yes. But I don't want to talk too much about legislation developments, because it was not part of your question. I mean, the consumer wants to have the feeling that they are not harming the environment when they stand in front of the point of sale and they make a decision. Are they buying this or are they buying that? Yes. Also, the decision can be sometimes really challenging, yes, because it's not very easy to judge which material is now the best choice, yes. And we also know that for our brand owners, of course, it is very important that they can claim that the product is recyclable, that they are using recycled material, that the product has a low carbon footprint. Also, we also know that the brand owners typically don't want to talk too much about the packaging. They love to talk about their products, yes. And of course, we really want to help our customers to achieve their goals, yes. And this is the challenge, without making the packaging much more expensive, yes. And this is, of course, a difficult thing at the moment. We know that when you buy recyclates, it's most of the time more expensive than virgin material. And this is also the reason why we are looking forward into how the next years are developing and how the PPWR and all this stuff is influencing this. And last but not least, and this is very important to say, I think also the material choice has to fit the purpose of the packaged good, yes. And this is always very much depending on what kind of food are you packaging, yes. Because from my perspective, I see that every material has its advantages. You only have to know for what you have to use which material.
Absolutely. And I think connected packaging, therefore, can really play a role in that communication. So if you're using something different as a new material, that might be something that would be interested in telling consumers about in terms of communication. But how can you see connected packaging playing that role in sustainability communication, Jörg?
Well, as I just said before, we work on recyclability, recycled content, CO2 footprint optimization, and this connected packaging thing is an additional piece of the puzzle, I would say, yes, because one thing is also how can you educate the consumer? How can he make the right choices? How can you make sure that he knows that he has to separate the two materials from this other? And this is where connected packaging really can help. Also, when I think about gamification, where you can make a nice quiz and where you like to try to educate the consumer, you can also talk about sustainability facts, and you can also encourage the consumer through gamification. Yes, and I think this is a very important part, which is very underestimated, I would say. Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That gamification in terms of education is a huge trend now that's starting to come in. But you're quite right, starting to come in, because it's still very underestimated. But the ability to be able to transfer information, but in an exciting way. Nobody wants to read PDFs of text. So this
Absolutely.
is a great
so gamification can be key, yes, to motivate the consumer with raffles or discount vouchers. So there are multiple ways how you can motivate the consumer to participate in things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that then encourages them, perhaps they're even rewarded for doing the right thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Rewarded for doing the right thing, Alice. Tell us about Ocado.
Oh yeah, thanks, Jenny. Ocado are a client of ours, and they've actually got GS1 compliant QR codes that we manage for them and host landing pages for them on over 60 of their products now and counting. But I wanted just particularly to talk about what we did with them last year in partnership with a recycling app called Bauer. Bauer are a rewards for recycling app, and we applied over 20 million unique every time QR codes to Ocado milk. So what that means is the QR codes, they contain the barcode number of the milk, but they also contained a unique serial number. So every instance of packaging had a unique ID on it. And it was that unique QR code that the Bauer app user scanned and scanned in the vicinity or the GPS radius of their registered home recycling bin. And if the code was unique and unclaimed, and they were scanning the code within the GPS radius of their home recycling bin, then the app rewarded them with a 20 pence cash payment in a digital wallet. And they were rewarded for recycling their milk container, and it was super successful experience for customers. In just 55 days, we paid out 20,000 20 pence rewards, which was faster than I think anybody anticipated. And even now, a third of Ocado's customers who were using the app for that 20 pence reward experience are still using it to collect Bauer points. So there's really clearly an indication that a segment of consumers want to be rewarded for doing the right thing. They want to have a record kept of their actions. And so we're really keen to talk to any brand that's interested in delivering a rewards for recycling experience through their own app, or indeed in partnership with Bauer, because we know how to do it. It's been done before. And the key thing is that the level of data that is collected and reported on their Polytag dashboard is unprecedented.
And much more than what the retailer would give them, right?
Way more. We can actually see where at GPS level the packaging is disposed of. And actually that can be interpreted as your area of consumption as well. Yeah. So rather than brands losing sight of what happens to their product once it's been shipped into the distribution network, we can bring it full circle back and say, well, exactly there, 4 of your pieces of packaging were disposed of and probably also consumed. It's really, really rich analytics and data no brand has ever been able to see before.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you very much, Alice. So, Jörg, I'm going to leave to you to wrap up. What do you think about connected packaging, sustainability, the future? What do you see coming next? What's exciting you?
Well, I mean, for sure, sustainability is and will be the key topic for the next 5 to 10 years. Yes, and I hopefully, and I'm also convinced, and I hope that the industry can prove that we are able to recycle the materials and establish a real circular economy. And when I see what is all developed and how technology can support here, I have a very positive mindset about the future, yes. And I also think that connected packaging and what Alice just told us will play a more important role. Yes, there are so many projects. If it is a Holy Grail project with digital watermarks, and there are many more. And I'm really curious when they really come into the pilot stage, how they can improve the circular economy.
Definitely. And actually, with your colleague Rachel at 1655, also talking about more sustainability, reusability, and digital programs as well. And I think this is an amazing movement where connected packaging really has a use which goes beyond, which was mentioned in our last panel, which goes beyond just data collection. Data collection, of course, is a big part, but if we can influence consumer behavior, if we can actually help to create a recycling, circular economy, if we can educate consumers, then we can actually start to make a change. And, you know, litter, therefore, and packaging does not have to be the bane of the world. We can actually make a change. Really, really lovely to speak to you both. Thank you so much for your time. It's some great insights. We've rushed through it. I could have probably spoken for another half an hour to you both, but we cannot. We must move forward. And as we move forward, we were waiting to speak to Steve. Steve's going to be talking to us about another really, really interesting use case of connected packaging. He's going to be talking to us about the use of connected packaging for diverse groups. We're going to be looking at Nappy Lens, and we're going to be looking at the application of connected packaging for helping the visually impaired. So thank you, Alice. Thank you, Jörg.
Well done. Brilliant. Thanks, Jenny.
Speak to you very soon.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.